So a brilliant idea came into my head while it was 2 a.m. because sleep be damned. Historical romance manhwas and mangas have really strange names, especially if they are based on European culture. On a still ongoing video about why otome isekai weirdness are generally quite bad, which the video is burning in a furnace because my monkey brain wants to rewrite the whole damn script, so my 1 hour of editing grind is now officially worthless. Fun. That's how my brain suddenly wandered into territory. Though I think it's just my constant sleep deprivation that's doing this actually, but while I was trying to read out the characters' names, I realized how hard it is to read. But sometimes it's not really reading that is the problem, they are just plain old weird. Names are one of the first things you learned about others, and even for characters that are intentionally hiding their real name, they still have a nickname that alludes to their personality, line of work, or even their capabilities. Names or anything that connects back to that concept is a part of a character's characterization, whether the writer realizes it or not. So, bearing that in mind, let's take a look at these weird-ass names, shall we?
Welcome to the once a year only Weird Names Showcase, and I, the AI model, shall read out these names because the video creator refused to. Please welcome our guests with the biggest applause you can give them. The video creator will cut in between. First up, we have Blea Acacia. Next, Diatric. Up next, Blondina.
Which sounds a whole lot like Babina to me. Also, my brain ignores the end for some reason.
Charteris.
But wait, there's more! His nickname is...
Shart.
I'm not going to elaborate since the joke writes itself. And last but not least...
Thirtiolopilion and Parashades a heart.
Whose nickname is Sasha. I'm reading it as Sasha because the double SH messes with my brain. I know I only mentioned manhwas, but not that mangas are much different. After all, who would name their child Nissan Toyota like it's the most normal thing in the world? I only limit myself to romance or historical romance. Otherwise, I think I would have found a lot more weird shit. I would like to remind you that this man is literally named Chad. Not that you damn Westerners are much better. Basically, if you want to see what weird crap names parents could give their child, just go to Oz as Tragedy, which is just basically tragedy but spelled like that. I would like to direct you to this post, which seems to be a screenshot of threads if my understanding of the UI is right. Do I need to explain more? Anyways, going back on topic, for mangas and manhwas, what the writer needs is just for the character, whose world is based on old European culture, to have a name that sounds exotic. It might make sense in the native language that the story was written in, but when it's translated into English, it makes no sense to those of us that know English well, and that's really where the majority of the problem comes from. They just needed an exotic name to serve the story for their native audience, not for the ones outside of it. It's not that the writer isn't always aware of this. Some might decide to put it on a side character for comedic effect. But the names I've just shown are from characters that are either the male or female lead. Not that the other characters couldn't have a weird name though. The other case is that their given name is fine, but not their family name. This is Felix from Hate Trap. It's not quite a historical romance setting, but leaning somewhat towards it. His given name is fine, but his family name is Cervantes, which is a little ironic if you remember that this dude is a child of a duke and a servant. Honorable mention for this guy again, because my Chinese brain corrected this to Lapchong, which sounds very close to each other. And then there is also the side effect of having an additional meaning that the writer probably didn't intend for. This man's name is this. I usually call him Escalante because it's fun for me to read that name out loud. But anyways, I remember some time ago that someone on Reddit mentioned that carcel means prison. Let me look it up real quick.
Cárcel Escalante de esposa.
Well, I also asked a friend who knew Spanish to make sure. So keep this in mind while I present to you. Have you been well, Ines? I don't remember hearing you be taking any time off, so what are you doing here? You asked me to come even if it's for a short while, so I'm here. Sorry I'm a little late though. It was the first time you said you missed me. It's because you're right in front of me right now. Because as long as our hands are together, I know I can't escape the swamp again. I miss you. It's not really a big problem? Question mark. If you're invested enough in the story, your brain would eventually get used to how weird the names are. If it isn't really obstructive, you'd eventually just forget about it. Maybe when it pops up, your brain might pause and go, "What the hell is this?" This is mainly the case if it's the given name, but if it's the family name, well, they don't appear often enough for you to question it, sometimes mentioned in passing or very rarely, so it isn't as bothersome as the given name since that pops up a bit too regularly, like a damn mosquito. Anyways, going back on topic, sometimes a strange name actually sticks in your brain better than the regular old Joe because it's something different. It sticks out to you easier. But whether or not it sticks onto you for long actually varies from person to person. Though that pro aside, the massive con is that it's very hard to say it out loud, especially for me. Let's take this for example. The B throws me off. If it's just this, I would have just read it as Leah, maybe put a bit of emphasis on the I or just ignore it altogether. But then you shove a B in front of everything. So am I supposed to just read this as Belia? Or are we going the tragedy route and this is just Leah but spelled with a B? There are also cases where the name is weird, but if you decide to look it up, it actually relates to something. Like the post that I found most of these weird names in, the OP mentioned Rudbeckia, which looks a bit strange at first, but is the name of a flower, also known as black-eyed Susan, native to both damp woodlands and dry prairies in North America. I do like to name my characters by flowers, usually trying to tie the flower to their personality or role, like Ultramelia for example, known as Lady's Mantle, which symbolizes comforting love. But I think you could tell from everything I've just said, to different writers, names might have a different significance. Some just need to name their character something, or in mangas and manhwa's case, just something exotic or vaguely European sounding to serve the story. Some, meanwhile, might put a bit more effort into naming and make sure that their name holds some meaning. And with the difference in culture and the way names work, they heavily influence the way writers decide to name their characters. There is also the constraint of the language that makes it hard for writers to choose a reasonable name. And when you stack on the nature of translations, since names are basically hard to correctly translate from one language to another, it becomes a disaster. Let's use a Chinese name as an example. We are going to break down the name first for those who may be unfamiliar with Chinese naming system. I'm going to use Zane from Love and Deep Space as an example. This is his name in Chinese, Li Sheng. The way names in Chinese work is that the very first character is the family name, much like Japanese and Korean, and then the rest is your given name. For some, the middle character is the name of their current generation according to their ancestry, so their last name is their given name, but you could consider both as given names as well. Zane's Chinese name is made out of 2 characters, which isn't rare since I had a classmate whose name is only 2 characters. When you break the 2 characters apart, you will get something different from them individually. When I see this character, I'm immediately reminded of Li Ming, which just means dawn. The other is the word for deep. But because it also sounds like Sheng, which you could get a lot of characters with, but Zane is a doctor, so my mind wanders to Yi Sheng, which is just doctor in Chinese. This one might be a bit of a stretch, but my first thought when I look at this was Chen Wen, which means reliable and steady, sort of alluding to his personality. This is the way names work in Chinese, because each word individually means something, so when their meanings combine together, you get something different. This is also the general approach parents go about naming their children in Chinese. Sure, my analysis may be a bit of a stretch, but it's not impossible that the writers intended to have this effect or something similar, so translations might be hard to fully convey their meaning across. It's important to remember that these names aren't originally written in English and are translated over. It might have made sense in the language it was originally written in, but not in another. That's really where the weird spelling comes from, though though sometimes it's just the case of a tragedy. They aren't really a big problem. Names are important, but the plot, character progression, and the characters themselves are more important than their name. I'd argue that the art is more important than the name, since an art style you don't like might cause you to drop the series. All you would do about a weird name is just tolerate it. But obviously, if you can't, nobody is stopping you from dropping it altogether. The weird names fiasco won't end anytime soon, but there's this weird part of me that looks forward to what other weird shit writers could come up with. I hope to be served up with some good, fresh pile of crap to laugh at. Remember, the writers sometimes just need an exotic name to get by, so even if they name their character, James Michelle B. Jordan Istanbul, as long as it works, there's nothing wrong with it. This is Amelia, and I will see you next time. Oh, and subscribe if you like to see more of these kinds of content.